The lecture is about nomadic lifestyle. Basically, how can you freelance startups, and the missing ingredient, what you guys are not doing, because you're also already startupping and freelancing, is traveling. So that's what I'm doing. Just want to say that this is my email in case anyone wants to contact me. And a lot of the topics I'm talking about here today are actually at my blog, and you can visit the blog at becomenomad.com, which is exactly the topic of the lecture. And if you have questions along the way, let me know. I'll be happy to answer. So we're going to talk about various subjects today. Basically, we're going to start with an introduction of what happened to me. Let's say why am I doing what I'm doing, and the change from the regular lifestyle. And I would like to say that I know most of you are not going to become nomadic. So if you take something from this lecture, the only thing I would take is maybe the change factor, which is basically saying the following: if you're not happy with something, you can change. So because there is the regular lifestyle where we're taught to believe that is the only lifestyle, and there are many other lifestyles around that we can also do. So so whatever lifestyle you choose, it doesn't have to be nomadic. Just go for it. I'm going to give nomadic lifestyle tips about how to travel and work on the same time. I'm going to talk a little bit about how to sustain yourself on the move, which is one of the most interesting things for people, about how do you travel and make money on the same time. And we're going to talk a little bit, if we have time, about creating a startup on it. Okay? So a little bit of introduction about what am I doing. I started in January 2011. I decided that I want to travel constantly, without stopping. And that's what I've been doing. I'd like to say that my way of doing it is totally different from other digital nomads. Everyone is doing it totally different, and everyone picks their own, let's say, style of doing it. And I'm just going to show you a chart that I always apologize before I show, because it's horrible graphics, so I'm apologizing in advance. And basically this chart is going to show, if it loads, where have I been so far. So I started in India. I'm from Israel, and what I basically do is I call it nomadic waves. I start in Israel and I go 7 months, and I come back to Israel for 1 month, and I go again and again and again. So I started in India, and you can see here the red places are the places where I just traveled, and my lifestyle is interesting because I think I'm staying longer. So for example, in Saloniki last year I stayed for 1 month and a half, in Athens 1 month and a half, in India 3 months, in Varanasi, and in the US and South America I stayed in Peru for 6 months, and Chile for 2 months, and Paraguay for 3 months, and Argentina, and the same for Croatia 3 months, and also Greece last year 3 months, and this year Bulgaria 3 months. So what I like to say is that I don't really travel, I stay longer. And this is really important, and this is what actually allows me to make money while traveling, because if I would travel like crazy all the time changing, it would be really difficult. Let's get back to the presentation. Okay, so a little bit about my life before the experiment. It might remind you a little bit of your life. So I was an accountant and an economist in Tel Aviv. And what's written over here is that something was missing, but not enough to. Okay, so I felt like, okay, I'm not that happy. Same bus in the morning, seeing the same people in the morning, never talking to those people, going back at 6 o'clock at the evening, seeing the same people again, and everyone looks a little bit miserable, but it was okay. I had a serious girlfriend, and I was working in KPMG. And what? KPMG is actually in Tel Aviv. And then what happened is that something changed. And this is important for me to say, because you have some people who do this change because they have their inner self is telling them, look, something is wrong. Okay, you have to do the change. And I had this, but I would never have the courage to do it alone. What changed is that I didn't like being an accountant. I was really bad at it. I got fired twice. So time after time I'm getting fired. That's the first thing that changed. The second thing that changed is that my girlfriend left me just before we got married. So she fired me as well. That's like a massive firing on a row. And then let's say you lose everything basically. You lose all your anchors. And in this specific point, I told myself, okay, this is horrible. Like, I'm really unlucky what happened to me in just 3 months. But there is something here. Can you guess what is this something?
Opportunity.
Opportunity because of?
Because you took nothing.
Exactly. Good. So basically, all of us has those lists of attachments that are tying us to a certain place. And in one certain moment, I noticed that there are no longer any attachments. And then I said to myself, okay, now that there are no attachments, I can actually do something. It's really bad, you feel bad about it, but you can actually do something to do something totally new. It allows you a lot of degrees of freedom. So that was pretty cool, and that's why I made the change. So I made the change not because I was like, no, I had enough, I'm a successful accountant, and I'm leaving my girlfriend and whatever. Life made me do the change. And it might be also relevant for you.
Yeah. How old were you when this happened?
When this happened, I was 31. Now I'm 35. So this was when I was kind of old already, and also had a clear path of, I have to continue to be an accountant, and everything was very clear. So. But I did know that I always wanted to do it. But I said to myself always, this is for next life. I don't know if you have this thing that you tell yourself, okay, this is not going to happen. And sometimes life surprises you and gives you an option to do something in this life, which is pretty cool. I'm going to do a quick look on the advantages of being a nomad. You probably know this. I'm not going to tell you anything new here. The first thing is that it's fun and wakes you up. Which is great. You know, life looks, like I said before, every day looks like the day before. And over here it was great. One day you wake up in Mumbai in India, and then you go to Thailand, and then you go to Paraguay, and then you're in Bosnia, and then you're in Saloniki, and you keep on changing, and I think it makes life more fun in a way. New friends and contacts, so you meet a lot of friends along the way, which is also great. Knowledge about the world, you know a lot more about things that happen. You know, for example, on Greece, I never knew that you had this thing about the war with Turkey, and that Ataturk, I don't know, all those stories, and all this is new to me. Those are things that you hear about, conflicts around the world and whatever, but when you actually stay in a place, you know a lot more. So I know about all the wars they had in Paraguay and what happens in the Balkans because you stay. You understand more or less what's going on. One more advantage is that you know yourself better because you have less comfort zone. So we know ourselves, but then again, if your day keeps on being the same day like before, then it's a little bit complicated because I'm constantly in new situations. All the time new things happen. And when new things happen, you know yourself a lot better. You keep on telling yourself, I didn't know that I like this and I don't like this, and because this life of nomadic lifestyle keeps on taking you out of your comfort zone. One more advantage that is very relevant for me is accepting. I used to be a little bit frustrated before I started this. I still am, but a lot less. And when you keep on changing, you kind of understand that nothing is stable and nothing is yours, and you accept things a lot better. Like even when bad things are happening, you're a lot more relaxed about them. You don't care that much as I used to care when I lost something or when something was changing. Now I'm a lot more relaxed, and I had a serious problem with that, so this really helped me, I think, psychologically. One more thing that is an advantage is hacking life with costs. It's not a coincidence if you saw on the map before that I was staying a long time in very low-cost countries like Paraguay and Bosnia and Bulgaria, because simply you can work for clients from all over the world, and if you stay somewhere, stay in a low-cost country, and then you're a lot better off. So this lifestyle allows you to actually hack life with cost. And the last advantage is basically that you have a story to tell, which is also important. You know, if you would ask me 4 years ago to do this lecture, I wouldn't know, like, to do any lecture. I would do a lecture on accounting principles, because that's the best I could come up with a topic. And now you have this story that makes it a little bit interesting, and it's important to be interesting, also to make friends, but most important because of your business. We're going to talk a lot about it a little bit later. This attention that you receive to specific topics helps you out. So I would actually encourage everyone to think about what is my story, my personal story, because it's important to have one. Something that is unique about you, about what you're doing, it's helpful to have one. But before you all pack your bags and go tomorrow to the airport and start, I want to be also totally honest about the bad things that are not so fun in nomadic lifestyle. The first thing is no home. Your home keeps on. Home is Spiti in Greek?
Yeah.
Because of the place, Spiti, where I have coffee. So you don't have home. It constantly changes. And some people find it really, really difficult. You know, you don't have your comfort zone, your private zone, your place where you can say, okay, I want to crash here and nobody can. So my home keeps on changing. It's totally different every time. One more disadvantage is establish routines from scratch. And I have to say, routines are very, very important. When I started this nomadic lifestyle, I was totally anti-routines. I'm like, I'm free in the world and I'm going to do whatever you want. And you see that if you don't know what you want to do, you have a serious problem. Because then during all day you think about, okay, what do I do now and what do I do now? And it's a little bit problematic. So establishing routines every time in a new place is not easy. The third advantage is what most people say is the biggest disadvantage. Maybe I said it advantage because for me it's a little bit of advantage, is loneliness and separation. The thing is that you meet a lot of cool people wherever you go, and then you start and you go to a new place and you don't know anyone. For some people, it's a real shock to be alone again. You had, for example, in Saloniki, I have a nice social life and I know people, and then you go to a new place and you don't know anyone and you start from scratch. So it's a little bit problematic. I have to say that I always prefer to go to places I've never been before. So I do start from scratch wherever I go. One more disadvantage is surprises. You have no stability. There's a lot ups and downs, so you have really cool moments, and then you have moments that are not good at all. Like, for example, in India, a monkey beat me up really bad. And in Hungary last year, they held me in the border and deported me because they said my passport is fake. So lots of things, lots of good things will happen, but on the same time, lots of bad things will happen. I think the key over here is just take it easy, whatever happens. Don't get too high if you have a really good day, and don't get too low if something really bad happens, and this is important. The lack of information makes you lose time and money, another disadvantage. So, you know, I'm in Greece and I don't know Cyrillics, and then you get lost all the time, and some people invite you for coffee in Tree Maria or whatever, and you never know where is it, and you just lose a lot of time and money also. For example, in Zagreb, in Croatia, the transport is really, really expensive. And I told my friends after 1 month, I told them, look, life here is cheap, but I'm paying so much on the tram every time I go, because they have a dysfunctioning tram system and they have to subsidize this. And everyone was shocked that I was paying, because nobody's paying. So for 1 month I'm paying for the tram and not really, without really need to do it. So you lose also money. Travel or work is also important. You go to a new place and you want to travel, and you have to work at the same time. So it's also problematic. And the last disadvantage is the ego blow that what I wrote here, you're officially weird. You can't really escape it because people will know you're weird. For example, my friends have no idea what's going on with me. Everyone is like, what's going on? Really, because it's 4 years. So in the first year I lied. I said it's a big trip. But it lasts for 4 years, and then people get really suspicious about if I lost it or not. So yeah, those are all the disadvantages you should take into account when you actually go for it. Ways to make money traveling. This is the most interesting topic because traveling is easy, but making money is not easy. So we're going to talk about a few things that you can do. The first thing is to be part-time nomad, and I met a lot of guys like this. What they do is they basically work half a year, and then they go traveling half a year. By the way, this one has a tax advantage because you're being taxed on your annual revenue. So those guys are not being taxed because their salary is sliced 50%. Short breaks from work. I have a good friend that has a really cool job, and what she does is that every month she goes somewhere else on long weekends. So she's in the US and she will go to Bosnia one weekend, and she will go to the Caribbean for one weekend. So I think it's a little bit pressuring, but you can, if you have enough money and they pay you enough, you can do it. And there are those corporate nomads. People work for big corporations but actually travel while working there without... I have a friend that works, I think in IBM, that is doing that. And she didn't tell her bosses, so they don't know because they don't expect her to be in the office, and she keeps on changing. So basically she's working in a corporation but actually moving all the time. So those are the first options. The second option is getting work in the country where you're at. It's the classical nomad. So let's say I get to Saloniki and I'm starting to look for a job. The problem is that it's illegal. So if you think about doing it, it's kind of messy and it's a little bit risky, but it does have a total immersion element to it, that you go to a place and you also work there, and I think it gives you something. The third option and the fourth option is basically what I did. The third option is online freelancer. We're going to talk a little bit about that. And the fourth option is online business or a startup. It used to be online startup or startup. I changed it to online business because basically I think a business that is online is the best way to go. Startup is the big dream of investors and whatever. Online business is something that generates revenue, and I actually have one, so I'm going to talk a little bit about this one. Let's start with the freelancing. Any of the freelancings here are working with Elance and Odesk or any other platform? You have one? Any other? No. So Elance and Odesk are really Elance, Odesk, Guru, Freelancer.com. I worked in both Elance and Odesk, and basically those sites are great to get revenue when you travel, and actually also good to get revenue. Because even if you're here in Saloniki, and let's say your job is not that amazing, why wouldn't you try getting clients from outside? And basically, Elance and Odesk are really interesting. You go inside the site, you register, you put a profile, you start bidding for jobs, and you start getting clients. So that's what Elance and Odesk are all about. That's what I did. Until now, this number doubled my earnings until now, and I've been doing this a lot in the beginning, and this is what allowed me to actually do the traveling. So those sites are great. By the way, when I started actually from $2 an hour, charging $2 an hour when I was in India, and life was very, very cheap there. And then you keep on increasing. So I'm not saying it's going to take a lot of time. Yeah.
Can you tell me how much approximately is the annual income in India?
India is like 5 times cheaper than here. I don't know how much do they make, but on life cost it's going to be 5 times cheaper.
So it's $100 per month, okay?
I think to live there as a tourist you probably need about $300. But it simply says that if you're working on those platforms, you can cut your wages by 5 and have the same quality of life. That's the life hacking we talked about picking a cheap place. A little bit about why should you do it. So get to the market fast. Freelancing is getting to the market really, really fast. Because if you start your online business or startup, you have to validate the demand really exists, and you have to build a web page, and you have to do a lot of things, and you're probably going to lose money in the beginning. Freelancing from day one, you put your profile, you bid for jobs, and you get money the minute you get hired. So freelancing is pretty cool. The other thing that I like about freelancing is what can you do? Because a lot of us, we work for big corporates and we don't really know what do we do well. And actually those sites, I started as a translator, and then I figured out that the best thing I do is actually business consulting and business planning. So those things, you actually get paid now, so you're only going to get paid if you do something very, very well. So those sites allow you to discover what is it that is really your talent. something that actually you're going to get paid a lot to do. And of course, the third thing, it gets you the oxygen to work on your projects or travel, which is exactly what I needed. Because when I decided I'm going for it, I had no idea what to do. And those sites are pretty much allowed me to travel. A few words about how to start freelancing. Decide on what you do. You go to Elance or Alldesk or Freelancer or whatever, you open a profile, you invest a lot of time in your profile to make it as good as possible. Start bidding for jobs, bid low, like I started on $2 an hour. Don't bid on 2, give yourself a little respect, you're not in India, bid on $4 an hour. Get a few reviews. Pivot, which means change your services if you need to, like I did. I started in translation, I pivoted to business consulting, I saw that there is a lot more demand over there and prices are higher. Raise prices along the way. When you start, you get reviews, you raise prices, and then what I like to do best is to hire people. And I think hiring people is really a nice skill that it sounds crazy, but I think everyone should experiment in hiring people. Because first of all, it makes you feel like your time is more valuable. You actually understand that there is cost for your time. So hiring people is something that I would really recommend any of you to do, even if you freelance or even if you have a business. So you can hire a lot better when you start freelancing. Because you were the freelancer and now you're hiring, you know all the psychology involved, you're going to do it better as well. Those are the links. elance.com and odesk.com, and if you join through this link, if you're going to hire through the link of elance.com/join/Eli, you can hire, you have the first $50 for free to hire, and if you're going to be a freelancer there, the thing is that they're going to charge you after a little bit of time. So this link allows you to bid for more job before they start charging you. By the way, I pay them every month because I do need to get jobs. So if you want to take it seriously, you have to pay a little bit.
When you say hire, you mean like getting people to do your job?
Exactly, yeah.
So if you bid for a job, you get it, and then you hire somebody else to do it?
A little bit, yeah. That's a dream. That's a dream. I do want to say that some people do it, and those people who do it will get burned pretty fast. So what I do is basically I get a job, let's say a business plan, and I feel like this business plan is mine. It's my responsibility. The people I hire are working with me, showing me what they have, and I keep on telling them this is good, this is not good, but you come to a situation that your time is a lot more valuable because someone else does the job and you only tell them do that and do that based on your experience. So what I would do when you start working freelancing, the first 5 projects, do yourself. So you get really good at skill. You have the skill, you know what to do. After 5 projects, start outsourcing the parts that you're not needed in lower cost. So yeah.
I do too.
That's great. Any other questions so far? Successful freelancer mindset, patience is the key. It's going to take time to get the first job. So I'm telling you in advance, it's not like you're opening your profile and you're going to get lots of jobs. It takes some time. Provide quality and care, and really if you don't provide quality, the first review is going to be 1 star and then you're done. Nobody's going to hire you after a few bad reviews. Care about the project. That's what something I do. It's like a mental drill for me that when I get a project, I feel like it's my project. So I'm like partnering. I don't have a boss, I have a partner in a way. Find a niche is really important, because if you're saying, look, I'm doing translations and everyone is doing translations, you have a problem. Find something specific that has demand that you can do well. And if you find that niche, your prices can go up, really, really up. And get jobs you learn from. I have a lot of jobs that are pretty cool. For example, I was in a lecture in a Google Developer event that some of you attended, I think. And I did the lecture I gave there about bootstrapping a startup as a project for other clients. So in a way, you learn a lot, you improve your skills, and you also use it for your own benefit if you choose your project right. Now, moving on from freelancing to online business. So I have an example, real life example. This is my online school. It's called lingolearn.com. We teach 16 languages right now. We have a few hundred students and about 30 active teachers. We also teach Greek, which is a shame for me because don't know almost nothing in Greek except spiti, as you see, and frappe metrio. That I still don't know what metrio means, you know, because in Greek sometimes with sugar and with I don't know, but that's the only things I know. But we teach Greek. Some things on LingoLearn. The thing is that we didn't have money when we started, and I knew I don't want to do only freelancing. Because freelancing is great, but you also want to create your own thing. So LingoLearn, a few things about this. Basically, we started from day one. My partner and I said, okay, what can we do now to start selling tomorrow? And a lot of us are developing their startup, and they do something that's only going to be in 1 year from now, 1 year and a half. LingoLearn, I like it because basically what we did, we bought a WebEx account, which is like an upgraded Skype. We started making calls to make sales, and we started selling courses in about $800 each. So I'm just saying that you can find models that you can start selling from day one. Yeah, you're going to have to develop it and improve it, but it doesn't mean you have to work so much on the project before selling. Start selling, and that's what we did in LingoLearn.
You the service you bought?
The what?
The service is Skype like service.
WebEx. You're going to open a competition?
Of course. Right now, if it's so easy and quick.
I love competition.
WebEx.
Yeah. So that's a really good example about doing something. Tell yourself, if you have an idea or a business, how do I start selling tomorrow without waiting too much? Which is exactly what we've done. And it's really easy. You just build a page like this that we paid about $300 to do. You get what you need and you start selling. Nobody has to know that you're small and that you never thought before. You lie in the beginning. So that's basically LingoLearn. I'm going to give another example for another business that is relevant for those of you who do startups as a case study. So the second business is StartupLink. StartupLink.com is basically a map that we're mapping the entire startup ecosystem. And we're two co-founders, basically myself and Roderick. Roderick was my boss for a business plan that I did for him through Elance when I was in Paraguay. So that's basically another advantage that you can have when you actually freelance. Sometimes you meet really cool people that later become your co-founder. And we have Yolanda here that is also in charge of our marketing. So and we met through Odesk, right? Yeah. So it's nice to see. And what I want to say about StartupLink, first of all, any of you that are into startups, I would really appreciate it if you can try it out and give me some feedback about what you think about the site. We're going to launch next week. This site is different. Why is it different? Because it involves a lot of technology. So on those sites, you can only start when you have investors. Those sites take a long time. So you don't have to sell from day one on some projects. This is a good example on a project that takes a lot of time before you start selling, and that's also okay in case you have the money to do it. So when I started on the business, on LingoLearn.com. And then when I had a little bit more money to invest in something else, and we actually got investors for that, I switched to something that is more ambitious. So that's the way I would do it. By the way, investors, if you want investors, they care a lot about the team. So if you tell them, look, I did a project before that actually generates revenue, then they say, okay, you're serious, you're not starting from scratch. So I would do this path of, first of all, an online business without investor, bootstrapping, and only then the model of big investment and stuff like that. A little bit about lessons about opening businesses while being on the move. So first lesson, in some cases investors are not a must. Everyone is running after investor. The people who's going to fund your big idea, and surprisingly the people who are going to fund your big idea are going to be you, which is the sad thing. Only 2 or 3% of businesses actually get investors. The other are bootstrapping and putting their own money, and sometimes it's needed to put your own money. When possible, start selling. We talked about this. This is really important. The good thing about start selling, not only about getting money from the sales, it shows you if there is demand or not. Because most of the businesses, they actually build something for 2 years without selling, only to find out later that nobody needs it, or nobody needs it the way they built it. So when you start sell, instead of not just the money, it's great to have money, it also shows you if it's worthwhile to continue. Okay? Just tell clients, yes, I can do it. which is what we did with Lingolearn, because big clients came sometimes and told us, did you ever teach this to 20 people, blah, 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 and we said yes, every time, yes. So that's something that you shouldn't doubt. If you think you can do it, just say yes, I can do it. There is a saying for a successful person, in the beginning always say yes, and when you get successful, to stay successful, start saying no. So in the beginning, when you start, you say yes to everything that you think you can actually do. It will be an emotional roller coaster. Businesses, if you start a business, do prepare yourself for a lot of ups and downs. It is, however, never easier and cheaper to start. Now, with Dropbox, Skype, and all those tools, what you should have paid for servers and international calls 5 years ago, a lot of money, now is really cheap. Another advice I give to business owners is to try to make something good, because it will make you feel better when you lose money, and you're going to lose a lot of money. So, an example, in Lingolearn, what we did, we teach Arabic to Israelis, and we actually teach also Hebrew to Arabs. So, you know, every time we get a little bit depressed and like the business is not doing well and we lose a lot of money, you look at this social impact that you have if your business is doing something of good value, and you tell yourself, okay, it's worthwhile to continue, because we have funny cases that, you know, in the last war that we had in Gaza, there was a siren in Israel because they were shooting missiles at us and we were shooting a lot of missiles at them, and during this siren there was an Arabic lesson. So it was nice for us to see that everyone arrived to the class and you have the Arabic teacher that is teaching and the students, and you feel like you're doing some kind of connection in a place where lacks connections. And whatever your startup is about, if you can find this spot of saying, hey, I'm making a difference, it's great. And what I have to say is that the best way to become a nomad without leaving home is starting a business, because it's basically the same. It's a lot of uncertainty, and the journey is more important than actually getting there. So it's more or less the same. Talking a little bit about how a nomadic life can help increase your income. So the first thing, if you're more happy, you're probably going to make a lot more money, because you have a lot more motivation. When I was in accounting, it was like only counting the hours to the end, and here you're like, I'm in Saloniki and I go with Yolanda to Piraeus with the boat, and you go back and you work and you feel a little bit better. Global business contacts when traveling, which is important, you know, because we hire online and everything, but when you meet a person in person, it's a lot better, and you trust them a lot better. So Yolanda and I, for example, met a year ago, and it helped, right, that we were on Odesk in the beginning, and then we went to have frappes together, and you feel like there is a lot more trust. So meeting all those people is really good. The same with Roderick, my co-founder. One more thing is first-hand knowledge about international markets. So, for example, we started teaching Greek. I wouldn't start teaching Greek without being in Greece. So I was in Greece, and I felt like it's okay to start teaching Greek, although we don't know Greek if we get Greek teachers. I'm not teaching Greek, but the thing is that you feel like you can do a lot more things. You're not that local anymore. You can get your cost down, which is important. Talked about this. You go to India, your business is going to need money in the beginning. When your business needs money in the beginning, spend as less as possible on yourself. You're bootstrapping. And that's a great way of actually spending less money as possible about yourself. Go to a cheap location. And you also have a story to tell, the PR, which is really important. The story element over here, I keep on pushing you to it. You need a story as well if you have a business. If you don't have a story, you have a problem, because then you have to pay Google and Facebook to put your ads, which is really expensive. On Lingolearn, we're paying about 2,500 euros or 3,000 euros a month to Google and Facebook. Basically, we build the business for Google and Facebook for them to make money on Lingolearn. So the thing is that when you have a story, I have your attention now, right? So I can say whatever I want about Startup Link and about Lingolearn, and it's great. You need this thing about having a crowd that is willing to listen to you, and then you can promote your own stuff, which is good. I will say that nomadic lifestyle has a bad influence on your income as well, because infrastructure, internet stuff, like where do you find the next internet place? A comfortable, stable place, work atmosphere, not easy at all. Lingolearn took a lot of time to start because I was in India, so my Skype calls with my partner were amazingly, like I said something, we had to wait 15 seconds until he got it, and we built it very slow because of that. Change takes time that you could be working. So again, you change places and you lose time that you could have done on the business. Lack of control if something goes wrong. So if I'm in Paraguay and something goes wrong with my clients in Israel, I have an issue. There is a solution for that. I'm going to talk about it later. And clients and investors get suspicious. So I'm doing business plan. I did a lot of business plans, and I went to London to meet the clients of my business plans. And everyone comes with a suit, and I'm coming with my, my jeans or whatever. And they ask you, where do you sleep? And you tell them I sleep in a dorm with 14 people, and they're like, everyone is shocked because there is no more the big game that each one of us is playing to say how successful I am, because this lifestyle is kind of flushing you out. You have to say what basically you do. It's not a big problem, by the way. Most people find it really cool. The conclusion is it's going to do more damage than good to your financial situation. So I'm pretty positive that if I would not do it, I would be better off financially. But then again, every one of you has to decide if financial success is the goal. And if it is, probably this is not the best lifestyle. And now the few last slides are about how to actually become a nomad. What do you have to do? If you're saying to yourself, well, I want to try. I want to start traveling now for 1 year, 2 years. The first thing you want to do is map your attachments. What is keeping you here? And by the way, this is something you want to do even if you don't plan to do a nomadic lifestyle. Why are you here? And if someone is going to tell you in a week's time you have to leave Saloniki to go to another place, why can't you do it? And then when you map your attachments, basically decide if they're worthwhile. Even if you don't want to be nomadic, is this something worth losing your freedom on? So if you all split up with your relationship in a week, it's my fault. Start working on revenue right now. This is really important. Don't make the jump, quit your job and then start your business or do freelancing. Start now when you have this source of income that you have. By the way, it's also good for startups. Don't start now. Keep your job and work on it in the evenings, in your free time. So don't just jump 100%. Go slow. It doesn't have to be that fast. And find a reliable partner because you need backup, especially if you have a nomadic lifestyle. So if something goes wrong in Israel or with Startup Link or whatever, I have my partners to go to. Now a little bit of tips about how to actually be a nomad while doing it. Don't move too much, because if you're going to move too much, you're going to go crazy. If you're going to change every few days, you're going to lose it totally. I tried it and it's not fun. Establish important routines on each base. So every place I go to, I call it a base, and I have a list of things that I do on the base. The list is about 50 things that I kind of discovered that I need to do in each place to fully feel at home and be efficient. So know what is your list. It doesn't have to be 50 things. It can be only 3 things. By the way, 3 things for me would be, I have 2 things: co-working place and swimming. That's the 2 things that after a long time I understood that are critical. Co-working and swimming. Co-working, don't work from home. Working from home in general gets me down. So I love the idea of co-working, taking myself seriously, paying for a place a little bit, just like the startup, paying on your startup a little bit, or paying on co-working a little bit, and have this social infrastructure that allows you to take yourself seriously instead of working from home in your pajamas. So I really recommend co-working. It's not for everyone, but this is something that I'm addicted to. I've done co-working in 30 countries so far, so I really love this thing. Befriend locals. Prefer your friends to be locals. Because in the beginning when I started, my friends were tourists, because it looked reasonable to me that if I go to India or if I go to Greece, my friends should be tourists. They're the same mindset. We're both foreigners, and then you understand that they have totally different schedule. They go to see places in the middle of the day and whatever. If you do this, befriend locals because they have the weekends off and the evenings off, and that's exactly what you're going to have if you're going to do this lifestyle. One more thing, you're not a tourist, because being a tourist costs a lot of money. Even in India or in Bosnia, if you're a tourist, it costs money. You have to change mindset. The change mindset of not taking taxis and go to the local restaurant is what's saving you money. Separate weekends from weekdays. Talked about this. Don't make your days a big fun day of you don't know which day it is. Work on the weekdays, and on the weekends take it off. India, not London, because India is a lot cheaper, so choose your location really well and take less risks. because you're always under a little bit of risk. For example, I got stopped in the border also here. I don't know why I have problems in the border as always. So the thing is that you have to play smart. So now when I go to another country, I have this list of things that I do, like have a fake accommodation where I'm going to stay, have a flight ticket back home, because you want to take less risk. You know what's the things that can complicate your life. There are a lot more tips in the blog in becomenomad.com. It's stuck. Let's see. It's actually almost the last slide. Yeah, the resources. So what are the resources I recommend if you travel long term? Accommodation, the best resources are Hostelworld for cheap hostels, Airbnb, and Booking.com. Those are, if you do a search about those three, you're going to be okay, find really good accommodation. Social life, we talked about this. You go to a new place, you have to meet new people, or you're going to be alone for months. I use couchsurfing to meet people and meetups when I can. For work, you have freelance.com and odes.com. Those are the two I recommend. There are a few more. I tried them, never worked for me, but I guess it has to do also with what you do. And 3 final suggestions before we end the presentation. The first one is wait for an opportunity and grab it. So it doesn't have to be something that you're doing now. Like you decided you're doing a change, wait for it. And if stuff happens, for example, what I did, I knew that I wanted to do it. A lot of things in my life brought me to a position that I could do it, and then when it happens, do it. The problem is that when bad stuff happens to us, we get panicked. And then we say, okay, I lost my girlfriend, how do I get a new girlfriend? I lost my job, how do I get a new job? So I'm just saying that those moments of breaking, and we have those moments in life when things break, use them, because those are the moments that you can do the changes, in those moments of breaking, instead of panicking. The second thing I would recommend is do what you like. So if any of you are doing something that you don't like doing, I would change it, because life is short. Maybe we only have one. What's the point of doing something that you don't like doing? And challenge the model or play more. You don't have to do what everyone else is doing, the regular 9-to-5 model or whatever. Do some stuff that are interesting. And that's pretty much it. What I wrote here, difficult and complicated but possible. If any of you want to stay in touch and tell me about your nomadic thing when you started, then that's also my email. And that's it. Thank you very much. Any questions? Something that you... Yeah?
As I understand, you like what you do.
Yeah, I do.
Why you do it. But are you planning to do that for all your life?
Yeah, this is really important, because we talked about the element of the story. Now I have a story, and I'm very careful about not being trapped in the story. So I hope and I feel that the minute I feel like, okay, this is not working out anymore, I can change. And I think I can change, because that's what I'm doing all the time, changing. So when the time to change comes, or maybe stay stable or stay in the same place, I think I can do it. And I intend to do what makes me happy. Currently it makes me happy. Don't know what's going to happen a week from now. You never know. Any other questions?
So you haven't had a girlfriend for the past 4 years?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Oh, you have one in India, one in Brazil.
Yeah, I had girlfriends, but that's one of the most complicated issues over here. By the way, a lot of nomads now travel as a couple, which I find maybe the best way of traveling. So 2 people that hook up and decide, usually they don't, not while traveling. Like maybe you have a relationship now and both of you feel like it's time to start traveling, so that's the easiest way to go. Yeah, but it's a little bit of an issue.
Can I ask something? Do you hook up with, and how you do it with other nomad people in the country you go?
Yeah.
How do you find them? And how do you do it?
So there is one internal group that I pay about $30 a month of location-free business people, that I find some people there. Couchsurfing is really good because you have a lot of hippies and people who lived in some kind of alternative lifestyle. It is a lot more alternative than what I'm living, but not so much. Most of the people I hook up with are locals. because of the reasons I mentioned. So from time to time I find someone like me. It's not that easy to find someone like me because there aren't that many. There is a term digital nomads, but you're going to see that most of the time they spend in Thailand and then they go to one place and go back, or maybe two places. And what I'm doing about constantly changing new countries, there aren't that many of us, so it's hard to find.
So do you have a bank account somewhere in the world? And
So everything is in Israel. So I do recommend if you go for a nomadic lifestyle to have a base. And my base is in Israel. Taxes I do in Israel. The bank account in Israel. Passport Israeli. So at least I know I have a place that I can say, okay, that's more or less my point of relation. Yeah.
So the address is in Israel. So when you have to give an address, something.
Yeah, but you hardly. Yeah, I always fake it. I'll just choose another address if someone asks. It's not like. That's a nice thing about the internet. It allowed me to do all those things. 10 years ago, hardly impossible. But now it's really easy.
So to earn for your life, you do freelancing.
No.
Only to jobs.
Yeah, so basically freelancing is now very low portion of my income. I do it less. Lingolearn is a school that is now profitable in the last, I think, 7 months. So we have a few hundred students. So yeah, most of the money is coming, let's say, from Lingolearn. I don't spend a lot, which is important still. I have a problem in spending. I work a little bit for Elance as a nomadic mobilizer doing those lectures. And Startup Link, we got investors, so I can take salary, but at least I don't put a lot of my own money. I put a little bit of it. You get around. In Bulgaria, you stay with friends a lot. You can even stay in a tent or whatever. You save on costs. But yeah, I got to a situation that my things can maintain. Surprisingly, 2 years ago when I did a lot of freelancing, I was a lot better off financially. But since then, I started to shift all of my time to startups. So I'm just juggling to do the missing portion on freelancing, but I almost don't do it anymore because I want to work on my own things. But that was the good start that allowed me to do what I do now. Yes.
Do you feel fear sometimes?
Less and less, I have to say. Because bad things happen all the time.
Especially the first days in a new country?
No, because the thing is that if you're going to start this lifestyle now, it's going to look like a big tree. It's going to really feel like a big tree in the beginning. So in a way, I feel like I'm still in my big tree. A little bit less like before because I'm less flexible or whatever, but it's in the end traveling. And tell you the truth, every place seems a little bit similar to the other place. When you do it a lot of time, then changing from Varna to Saloniki or Sarajevo or even Asuncion in Paraguay, the same more or less. You kind of get used to doing it. So no, there isn't a lot of fear, not that much. People are usually also very, very good and positive. So if you avoid problems, you're not going to find them. You're going to find them a little bit and it's going to be manageable. But if you're not avoiding problems, if you like to get drunk or whatever and do crazy things, then during 4 years you're going to find a lot of problems. That's why I say I take less risks than I can.
How do you organize how do you make your program? Okay, you're going now to Israel, you're staying.
Yeah, 1 month. I have no idea. I will try to go to a country where I've never been before and find a cheap ticket or whatever, cheap flight or some kind of an event that I would like to go, but I'm totally flexible. By the way, when I find a flight, I'm going to those sites that show you I'm doing from anywhere to anywhere, and then I just pick the cheapest one because this flexibility is really
it's
good.
Very flexible.
Yeah, it's like totally flexible. From anywhere to no, actually it's Tel Aviv to anywhere, and then you see all the prices out there, and you just pick whatever date and whatever. Yeah.
A problem with the staying is that you cannot stay there more than 3 months, for example, because
So I think that's what helps me actually have this nomadic lifestyle, because I've been comfortable in lots of places. For example, I got really comfortable in Saloniki 1 year ago, but I had to leave because I was 3 months in Greece. So actually what keeps you moving is this 3 months period. So for me it's a big advantage, because if not I would probably stay in the place. Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Okay. So thank you very much again for coming.
Thank you.